Sound Poetry, History and Developments of a Poetic Vanguard.
Brenda Pena.
Preface to this new edition.
Enzo Minarelli.
This engaging and intriguing research by
Brenda.
Although dating back to 2009, not only shows no signs of aging, in fact it proves to be very precious for understanding what sound poetry can be in Brazil, in South America, and also serves to take stock of the current situation. The book opens with two excellent quotes from Raymond Murray Schafer and Paul Zumthor, two dear friends who I met personally during my various participations in international festivals and with whom I had the great pleasure of collaborating. To Schafer's question on how one can free oneself from the weight of writing, just listen to him and hear, the sounds go round where the almost infinite and unlimited possibilities of phonetic experimentation are concretely evident. One could object that even at the written level there is this characteristic of mixing random words. However, it must be added to precisely define the two fields of action that sound poetry, addressing itself above all to the ear, enjoys all the advantages made available by the voice instrument, while writing, anchored to the use of the eye, therefore purely visual, is automatically delimited. From Paul Zumthor, I would like to recall the classic distinction between orality and vocality, useful for framing the delicate relationship between language and reality. I think, paraphrasing William Carlos Williams, that ideas flow not so much from things but from words, and the poet, whether sound or linear, must deal primarily with the lexicon. Orality develops language into perfectly recognizable modules while vocality resorts to desecrating interventions on the phonemic body of the word itself, making it apparently unrecognizable. Here occurs, to quote Jacques Derrida, the so-called dissemination of meaning, the dispersion of meanings which, far from being destructive, inaugurates its building part precisely in this phase. Among the many merits of the Jean Van scholar, who moved to Montreal where he died prematurely, there is undoubtedly that of having understood that performance was the privileged terrain of sound poetry. An idea that undoubtedly comes from the Greeks and anticipated by the first happenings both by John Cage, but above all by Alan Kaprov, and, wanting to complete the list also by Jackson Pollock. If we take the performance as a point of observation, we note that in Brazil we had to wait for the work of Philadelpho Menezes carried out in the last decade of the last century to have sound applied in the poetic field. As reiterated several times, the concrete poetry movement returns literature with a predominance of visual significance, with some experiences in the field of oral expression completely insufficient to accommodate such an important practice as sound poetry. For the record.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?